Success Insight shares the stories of the people with passion and drive who make things happen in the world. Here's your host, Howard Fox.
Hello, everybody. This is Howard Fox for my co-host, Randy Ford. Welcome to the Success Insight podcast. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I hope you are having a fantastic start to your week. And today, as our guest, we have Charles C.J. Jones. Now, Charles' mantra is 99.5% just won't do it. And why that makes a difference is Charles has been a basketball coach, and he is the director of the Educational Opportunity Program, or founder of the Educational Opportunity Program, and director of athletics at the Central Connecticut State University. He was recently inducted into the CCSU Athletics Hall of Fame in 2010, and he's also the author of A Method to March Madness, an insider's look at the Final Four. Those of you who are fans of basketball know what the Final Four is, and there's a couple folks who I know will be listening to this podcast. They're going to be going, wow. And so in this book that Charles collaborated with Tom Hazuka, and most recently they published a new book. And so Charles is the author of A Summer That Can Change Your Life, a history of the Educational Opportunity Program at Central Connecticut State University. CJ, I want to welcome you to the Success Insight podcast. Thank you.
Happy to be here.
You know, when I got your response to our queries, we're looking for authors, and frankly, we really didn't know what we were going to receive in terms of people who would be interested in being on the podcast. And, you know, and there's a lot of folks writing about zombie apocalypses and, you know, private eye stories. There's a lot of leadership, consulting, coaching. But I have to say, this book, A Summer That Can Change Your Life, that's a real interesting book. And I was hoping you could share not only about yourself, but the origins of this book.
Sure. Initially, I'm a New Yorker and went to school at Central Connecticut State University, received a degree in English at Central. And at the same time I was there, I was an athlete, so I played two sports, both basketball and baseball. I completed my degree in the fall of '69, in December. And I didn't really want to start student teaching at that time. I had done teaching in the high schools, and I know that I wanted to start at the beginning of the year. I didn't want to grab a class in the middle of the year because I knew that would be chaos. So I started going to graduate school right at Central and worked as a graduate assistant. And all of a sudden during the summer of '70, there was a program that had been running at Central the previous year, 6-week summer program for students who didn't do particularly well in high school but had the potential to be college students, but they were deficient maybe in English or math or reading. And there was a 6-week program. They had been through this program. And that particular summer of '70, the director was looking for someone who would live in the dorm with the kids, kind of be a mentor to them. And I happened to be in the right place at the right time. So I spent the summer of '70 working with these students. They would go to class, and I would run the study halls and kind of be their shoulder to cry on after a hard day of classes and intensive work. And at the end of the summer, the professor who was running the program at the time decided that he wanted to go back to the classroom, that he really didn't want to continue the follow-up with these students. The university had just started the program, so they said, okay, let's make it full-time. We'll hire someone. And I was in the right place at the right time.
Imagine that.
Take this program over, and I said, this just fits my bill, be able to work with students who have potential but need a little pushing, need a little guidance, need a little confidence. And so I began as the first full-time director of the program and really started in its second year of its existence. The first thing I did was hire a few of our students who had been counselors in the program to run kind of a study hall during the school year. I knew they had done that during the summer, and I said, we need to continue that relationship during the school year. So that I did, and from there I began to look at the program and see what else could be done to improve the program. And it primarily had been math and reading. And being an English major at the university, I thought that these kids needed to know how to write better and do a research paper. So I kind of added the English writing, composition, research to the program. And it just kind of continued on. Each summer I'd go to the high schools and, talk to students about this program and get them interested in it. And then we'd take maybe 50 kids each year, and it just continued to grow, continued to be fairly successful. The university continued to support it. And before you know it, you got kids graduating, and you're at the 10th year anniversary, at the 25th anniversary, and you're at the 50th anniversary.
That is amazing.
Time just flies by in terms of the success that we were having. And, each year I would tell the kids, we're not going to have a program next year unless you are successful, because it was funded by the university. And we know that funds can dry up in a heartbeat. And if the students aren't being successful, the university could, pretty much drop the program at any time. So it was impendent upon me to impress upon these students that, you're first generation, you're the first ones to go to college, you need to get it done, not only for yourself, but for the next class. And that was kind of my speech for the last 49 years at the banquet. You need to be successful so that another class can come behind you.
So much to talk about, just kind of, maybe we can circle back just a little bit. I mean, 40-some years, 49 years, 50 years. I mean, what a testament, because not many things last that long these days.
Yeah. And this is, they were at the time, and if people are familiar with Upward Bound programs, which are similar, but they're federally funded, and you have to apply for grants each year. And at the time, Connecticut, we had programs, a federally funded program, Upward Bound at Wesleyan, at Trinity, at Fairfield. And so ours was really the first state-funded program that kind of emulated those. And to this day, we're the only one that still existed, so that while those programs were successful and lasted for a long time, at some point in time when you reapply for grants or funds, you may not get them, and ultimately that happened to those programs.
Very interesting. I am curious, at the start of the program, so you graduated, the university, you decide to go to grad school, and then all of a sudden this opportunity shows up and you take it on. Kind of looking back, being in the right place at the right time, there's something about timing.
Yes.
Looking back, do you, it seems to me there's a wow factor, like this has been an unbelievable ride.
Yes, it most certainly has. And, that was a time during the 60s, too. And, schools were trying to increase their minority enrollment. And here I come take over this program, which was primarily Black and Hispanic students. And, of course, the Black students at the time were a little leery of, an educated Black person running a program. And Hispanic students were worried that maybe I wouldn't address their needs, that I'd be more in line to work with the Black students versus the Hispanic students. So, those were some of the early struggles, but after people knew who I was and my identity and what I was all about, that no longer became an issue.
Gotcha. Now, during this program, and so it was a 6-week summer program.
Correct.
And
go ahead. 6-week summer program. The students are on campus. They live on campus, and they have classes pretty much all day long, early in the morning till the afternoon. We have lunch, they have dinner, and then there's a study hour from 6 to 8 each night. But it's never enough for the kids to get the work done because the professors really lay it on. So the kids really are up, till the wee hours of the night. And part of that is believe it or not, kind of a bonding situation that they're all going through it. They can't get it done. You have counselors who are staying up at night with them, helping them, write papers or correct papers or helping them with math problems that they have. And I think part of the beauty of the program is that a lot of the former students who are counselors, the students see them during the academic year as well, because they're in school, they're in classes, they're in the dorms, they're in the same clubs and organizations. So it's really kind of an extension of the summer program. The kids get familiar with the campus, they're familiar with people, and that group that really goes and struggles through the summer, they bond with each other, and the camaraderie and the unity that each group has is unique in itself.
It's interesting the way you describe that. If this was not an educational program, it was a sports program, and you've got the sports background, basketball, baseball, but that's how you build teamwork and, or even the military, so to speak. You build it by learning to support each other because you're all going through the same thing.
Exactly. And, there's many tears and they want to go home, and then, they come back and they kind of suck it up. And then at the end, as a group, they're just so joyful that they made it through the program, and they have bonds, forever. There's even been people who've been married and their brothers and sisters. I've been to a zillion weddings of people who've been in the program.
Right.
And, that's really kind of a great testament to, how they feel about you and what they experienced.
Excellent. And I'm curious, you mentioned the word crying, and like the sports, like the military, everybody's threshold is different. And what was it like when those first students, the ones that were truly struggling and just kind of, they're at the end of their emotional rope, and now it's your job as the leader in the program, as and your team's job as mentors, as coaches. How do you let those folks know, it's all right, you're going to come out of this even better? What was it like when you first were confronted with those tears, that pain, that agony?
Well, it's kind of just making them feel wanted, making them feel needed. And a key part of that is the counselors, the teachers that you have who are compassionate and care about the students as well. And that, I guess I have a little knack for selecting the right people, or selecting people who are on the same wavelength as I am. And we did break up the summer a little bit. We used to have a car wash. If you want to say the theme of the EOP program was car wash, we'd have a car wash in the middle of the summer, and we delivered telephone books to generate some money, and we'd get on a bus and take the kids to a play in New York. Being from New York, plays were a big part for me. Many of these kids had never been out of state of Connecticut, let alone to a Broadway-type play. Mm-hmm. So for years, each summer, we would wash cars, deliver telephone books, and, of course, the staff would have to chip in a little bit, too, to take the kids to Broadway plays, or occasionally we go to an amusement park, or occasionally we go to a jazz festival, some things to kind of really break up the summer and also create some, fun activity for the students. So as much as they were working hard and busting their hump, they also was something at the end of the rainbow or the middle of the program that they could look forward to, something a little lighthearted. And we did other things. We had like a talent show, so that one of the teachers made the kids find some talent. She didn't care what it was. You could sing, you could dance, you could do a demonstration, you could be like on a fashion show. So we did a lot of different things to break up the monotony of the academics, and we'd bring in community leaders and a lot of different things. We'd take them to the various jobs and corporations that they might be interested in. And because after so many years we'd built up a lot of students who worked at different places in the state, if we went to a TV station, one of our former students was working there. If we went to an insurance company, one of our former EOP students was working there, and they could connect with those people and say, oh, you went through what I went through, and you made it, and you're working at this particular job or this particular fashion. So it really became almost our own network.
As you were describing that, I was thinking, and you and I, once we initially met, we talked on the phone, and I connected with you on LinkedIn. And as you were just describing that, I was thinking, That's wonderful network. That's what I coach my clients to do on LinkedIn. Who went to your university? What jobs are you interested in? Where are they now? Go connect with them. But you've got a built-in, I mean, this program, the EOP program, is kind of like a built-in business card in a way.
It is. And, initially, I knew the program was successful because I could see that the kids who were graduating, I'd go to graduation and we'd have pre-graduation parties, and I'd take pictures at every graduation and send the kids notes. And I knew that the program was successful because, people were teaching, a lot of people were in education, some people were social workers, principals and at high schools and so on and so forth. And I think probably the thing that really, really knocked me off my loop was probably around 2009, which seems like, why did it take so long? But a former student of mine who had been in the EOP program, and, he struggled a little bit, but he made it through, and he became a counselor and ended up teaching at Western Connecticut State University in phys ed. And probably about 10, 12 years ago, I got a letter from him saying, I want to thank you for what you did. And he sent it to one or two other, the administrators at the time. And he says, my son just got accepted to Harvard. And I just said to myself, oh my gosh, his son just got accepted to Harvard. And that's when it really, really, really hit me that not only had we affected first-generation students, but we had ultimately affected second-generation students and their cousins and their nephews and their relatives to seek higher education as well. So the impact didn't really hit me about the generational thing until this young man got accepted to Harvard, who, by the way, graduated, 2 or 3 years ago. He played football at Harvard. They beat Yale in the big game a couple of times, and he got a job on Wall Street. So, that was 10 years ago.
It's something I know I read it. I don't know. It could have been on the Amazon page where the book is, or maybe it was somewhere a quote. The power of education in giving. It truly is. And I know I'm paraphrasing it, and somebody else said it, and it wasn't me. Education is the great equalizer.
Yes.
Giving people an opportunity.
And that's what it did, and then the effect it has on those first-generation kids, that their kids now are going to college and doing well in high school. And, I was just making some phone calls before I talked to you to see if we have any grandkids that are from the EOP, but not quite yet. So we don't have any grandkids of our initial first or second or early groups of kids, but we certainly have sons and daughters and brothers and sisters who have effectively, seeked higher education and are continuing on that path. And I'm sure that their kids are going to continue on that path because of what started back in 1969.
Most definitely. So, I want to talk more about the book per se, but I do have one question that's kind of on my mind is looking back now, 50 some years of this program, what's the big change that you see today versus when you started, and what surprised you the most? So the big change, and what has surprised you the most that, today in this program?
Well, there's two changes. Essentially, the program has remained exactly the same, and I think that's the success of it. You have the study halls, you have the English, the me reading, the math. It's hard work. That has remained the same, and so every class has gone through that. What has really changed is the present director, who was a former student of mine. She's added an international piece. So for the last 3 or 4 years, a group of EOP students have gone to China as an exchange program after the completion of the academic year. So they have to hustle back the directors for this summer program. The other thing is the president wanted to increase the numbers of the students. I always felt comfortable with 50 students, that, a group that we could really work with, we could really get involved with, and we had the staff to do that. And she certainly likes the program. She's increased the numbers to 75, which is okay. I just feel that maybe we're grabbing some of the students who may be a little bit beyond first generation and taking some students who maybe could make it a little more on their own. But, the fact that they benefit from the summer experience certainly helps them as well.
Excellent. Excellent.
And then what was the second part of that?
The big change and what has surprised you the most?
I guess the thing that surprised me was the fact that every year now I can, since I got on Facebook to, try to contact kids for the 50th anniversary, every time I go on Facebook now, someone is doing something successful. They're taking their kids to college, and I can't seem to get over the fact that people are taking their kids to college. It's like a pleasant surprise, an unintended goal, an unexpected benefit that, now I can see this thing is going to last for forever, maybe.
I think that's what they call legacy in a way.
Yeah.
We've actually passed the 20-minute mark, and that's okay. I'd love to hear a little bit more about the book, A Summer That Can Change Your Life, the history of the Educational Opportunity Program at Central Connecticut State University. Talk a little bit more about that structure and how it's organized.
Yeah, the book really was, we were coming upon the 50th anniversary, and I said, geez, let me reach out and write a little history of the book. And I said, at the same time, let me get in touch with some of the former students and what they're doing now. And just about everybody I called said, sure, we'll write an excerpt. We'll write about our story in the book. And then I said, let me do the kids of the EOPers, so that I've selected some parents who had their kids in college or on their way to college, and they also decided, okay, let's write something on the book. And then I pulled some of the staff members who had been involved with the program for many years and had them write their experiences and how, they got involved with the book. And then I did a little piece on some of the other programs that are in the state that are similar. And then the last part was really kind of a research piece where a former friend of mine who was doing research on these types of programs, to tie it all together to say, it's not just that this program has been successful. There's studies that say people who are familiar with their university, who have group connections, who have camaraderie and things in common, who bond together, are likely to be more successful. So it really was putting together the former students, the teachers, the kids of the former students, and a kind of a history of, what we've gone through in terms of the starting of the program. And we did 25th anniversary, and, one of the former students who was at Boeing, got a job at Boeing, sent a check and said, I want to give back to the program. So it started a scholarship fund. And by the 25th anniversary, the goal was to raise $50,000, and it took the night of by 3 or 4 people to make a donation. So we raised $50,000. So we had an endowed scholarship. And then probably in 2017, about 3 years before the anniversary, we had $700,000 in the endowed scholarship fund. And I boldly said at the banquet, I'd like to have $1 million by the 50th anniversary, which meant I had to get $100,000 each year. And probably was a little overstepping my my enthusiasm. And lo and behold, a year later, one of the corporations who had come to the New Britain area wanted to make a donation to support the programs or the university or kids in the community, and they made a sizable donation of $250,000. So, 1 year later, I'm looking at $50,000 to generate instead of $300,000 to generate. So by the time we had the 50th anniversary, we were at $1,150,000.
That's
and
fantastic.
endowed scholarships that we give to the kids. And there's been some community organizations, and then the university, various departments have chipped in, and other private people who liked what was going on now give scholarships. Some are renewable, some are 4 years, some are 1 year, but there's a significant number of scholarships that are given out, which is a lot different than the early years when we used to give out trophies and goes certificate papers saying that you completed the summer program.
Quick question. When the kids are going through the program, is it for 1 year, or are they coming back over a course
First of all, they would have to be, they'd be students who would normally not be accepted to Central.
Okay.
So therefore, they can only get accepted to Central by successfully completing the program. And then once they complete the program, they're admitted as freshmen to the university.
Excellent.
And then basically we follow through with those students throughout their career at Central. You know, we have counselors who work during the school year and other staff, so we continue to have the study hall set up and monitor their progress, help them with their scheduling, financial aid, all those kinds of things. So they only go through the summer once, and they successfully complete it, then they're admitted as freshmen to the university.
Fantastic. You know, I'm curious, 50 years and probably a quote or two, or if somebody has said something that really resonated for you and kind of talked about, if there's anything that you can share from one of the participants. I wonder if that's available to our listeners now.
Yes, let me, maybe I could quickly read this quote or a little story and then a quote from this individual. By setting it up, there was this young lady named Damari Flores, and because we had been successful with EOP, we got a grant to work with kids even younger from, junior high school through high school in the hopes that if they completed that, they would get a regular admission to the program and to a university and not have to go through EOP. And we had this one young lady who was just fantastic as a junior high school student. Went the first 2 years of high school, was just outstanding. She was going to be the best. Somewhere along the line, she got involved with the wrong group, the wrong people, dropped out of school. So here's the story. In the fall of 1992, on my way to work, I decided to stop at a CVS to pick up some chocolate chip cookies. I'm affectionately known as the Cookie Monster, and often I make a stop to satisfy my cravings. When I reached the checkout counter, the cashier was none other than Damari. Fortunately for both of us, this was before cell phones, so no bystanders could record me reading her the riot act. I gave it to her up one downside and the other. I was so mad I might even curse. When I finally finished talking about her wasting her talent and potential, I offered her an option to change the path she was on. Get your high school degree, I told her, and I will hold a spot for you in next summer's EOP program. And expect that during those 6 weeks of the EOP staff, I will be all over you. We will work you hard and we won't give you a moment's rest. I gave her my card and left the CVS. A few weeks before the start of the EOP program, in the summer of '93, I got a call from Damari. She had earned her high school diploma at night and was now back on track. As promised, I had a spot for her in the program. We didn't cut her any slack. She had to fill out applications, go through the interview process, writing samples. I had to make sure she was ready to make the commitment. Damari's daughter recently, last year, graduated from University of Massachusetts. This past weekend, she took her son to Penn State for his freshman year. So I sent her a note and said, I'm so proud of you. You've done a great job. I love you. And her response back to me in a text was, thanks to my mentors who saw what I couldn't see in me and didn't give up on me until I believed as well.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. That's a great gift.
I mean, that just kind of sums up how the kids who've been through the program feel about the program and the effect that they've had on others.
Mm. Just a couple parting thoughts and, a couple things. I want to make sure if there is we're going to have a link to the book to Amazon on the show notes. And also if there is a link or that individuals who want to learn more about this program can go to, if we can share that as well. So give you a little time to get that. But I'm curious, looking back now, 50-some years, you've had an unbelievable career. I mean, with, as the athletic director, as a coach, as an educator, running this program. I mean, it's been a pretty amazing career. And I am truly humbled and grateful that you were open to being a part of our podcast. But I am curious, what do you want people to say about you and the impact you've had, throughout this really phenomenal career you've had, CJ?
I guess all I want is for individuals to appreciate the fact of someone who cared, someone who took the time, someone who was kind of everything that they needed, whether it was their chauffeur, their mother, their father, their cook, their advisor, that I filled a lot of roles in that. Some of them emulate what I did and maybe do that for someone else.
Fantastic. So, CJ, before we sign off today, I truly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to share with us about, the Education Opportunity Program at CCSU and about really your career in a way. I mean, this is just the difference that you have made, and want to make sure if folks want to learn more about the program, for example, at CCSU, how do they go about finding that?
They can go to the central website and look under the pre-collegiate access programs. EOP would be one of those programs under the pre-collegiate access category.
Excellent. So, folks, we'll get a link from CJ. We'll put that in the show notes. Also, CJ will put a link to your LinkedIn URL on show notes as well, and as well as a link to the book on the Amazon site. And so I really, truly appreciate the time you've taken today, and I warned you 30 minutes goes by pretty darn quickly. So.
Yeah, it did. I think we covered, pretty much most of everything in that short period of time. Obviously there's always one or two things that you'd like to put in, but maybe some other time where people will find out more information and, continue to pursue and look at these kinds of things.
Most definitely. And something that's really on my mind, too, is I would love to hear more about the stories of the people who went through this program and the impact it's had. Because as you said, it's the original students. Now it's their kids, and maybe in the future it's going to be grandkids. So there's some wonderful stories there that are worth.
Absolutely. I mean, there's kids who are lawyers. One was the assistant to the Attorney General for the state of Connecticut, Blumenthal, who's now a representative and senator. One of our students was his assistant. We had one who was working in Washington to the Attorney General in Washington, and one who was working in Boeing on special. He couldn't even tell me some of the stuff he was working on at Boeing.
I think that's military.
Yeah, doing planes and engineering and that type of thing. So, one of the students is director of admissions at the University of Connecticut, and another is vice president at Eastern Connecticut. So there's a lot in the state who, because the kids were primarily from Connecticut, always snuck one or two out-of-staters in.
Gotcha.
99% of the kids were in-state, so a lot of them are still in the area, working at various professions and connecting really with each other. And some of them find out that there's some people working with them that they didn't know were EOP students until, we started reaching out and doing the 50th anniversary. And they said, "Oh, you were an EOP?" "Yeah, you were an EOP." "I didn't realize you were an EOP." Connected, so to speak.
That's amazing. Well, listen, if you can stay on for just a minute, we'll sign off. And again, thank you so much for gifting us with this information and the quote from the book and the impact that you and this program has had. Thank you very much. All right, everybody, this is Howard Fox, your co-host from the Success Insight podcast. Again, for my co-host, Randy Ford. I hope you enjoy this episode with CJ Jones, as he chatted about the Educational Opportunity Program at Central Connecticut State University. And again, when you get a chance, go out to Amazon and you can look for a summer that can change your life. It's a 50-year retrospective of 50 years of a phenomenal program. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there and have a phenomenal day, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Success Insight podcast. Take care now.
Success Insight is a production of Fox Coaching and First Story Strategies. Find us online, successinsightpodcast.com.